G'day guys and welcome to Raging Rhino. Ever since Disney acquired Star Wars back in 2012, every time they release something that just happens to destroy more lore or more characters or whatever the case may be, it's been an absolute disaster for them. But every time they come out with something like that and it gets criticized by actual Star Wars fans, all they seem to be able to do is grab the same playbook and run the same play over and over and over again. And what is that? To blame the fans. Now, the last time I checked, my name wasn't in the credits, your name wasn't in the credits, and we're not the ones actually making this atrocious garbage that they call Star Wars, that they label Star Wars. I've been saying for a long time that Disney Star Wars isn't Star Wars, and it's not. For multiple reasons. You look at all the shows that they came out with, the Book of Boba Fett, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, Ahsoka, all of these shows, The Mandalorian, everything that they've come out with since 2012 has actually done damage in some way, shape, or form. Now, some people have liked certain parts, some people have disliked certain parts, but I think we can all agree that after the Acolyte, the majority of actual Star Wars fans are just done with it. And I think the reason for that too was because a lot of people had faith in the hack, Dave Filoni, the so-called apprentice to George Lucas, that he was going to turn things around over there at Lucasfilm and save Star Wars. But it's not just Disney Lucasfilm that comes out and attacks the fans. Of course, you've got the access media and the mainstream media. They toe the line as well. They run the same play out of the exact same playbook, just like Disney Lucasfilm. So let's just go through and see who actually is to blame for the disaster known as Disney Star Wars. These are just some of the articles that come out just to show you that they keep running the exact same play. I mean, look at what happened after the Obi-Wan Kenobi show with Reva and Ewan McGregor sitting in his car going, "You're no Star Wars fan in my eyes if you're a racist." So anyway, here's some of the articles or some of the headlines. Why are Star Wars fans so upset with Disney's new series, The Acolyte? Then you've got this one from Inverse. The Acolyte isn't ruining Star Wars. You are. Again, like I said, I don't see my name in the credits. I don't see your name in the credits. We see these activists' names in the credits more often than not. This was a big one that got a lot of traction and a lot of people saw this and broke this article down. But from Forbes, The Acolyte's 15% audience score is embarrassing for the audience scorers, pointing the finger at you guys. And of course, based on the video that I did last night that I thought was a little bit more important than actually doing this video, or else I would have done this video last night, is Looper came out with this little nugget that they deleted straight away for some strange reason. Let's just take a listen to this just as a little reminder for the people that we've got to be pointing the finger at for who's actually destroying Star Wars.
Cultural critics like The Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic have dubbed the show lore-breaking for its recent revelations, but their commentary isn't productive. Rather, it encourages bigotry and hatred over a show that's just getting started.
There you go. So the actual fans that we need to be pointing the finger at is Gary, Nerdrotic, and Critical Drinker. It's just the same play over and over and over again. And you know what's really funny? Is that the people that were giving this some chances or still had hope that they were going to turn the corner and now seeing it for what it really is. Now, I think that for the Acolyte especially, a lot of blame goes to Leslie Headland for her activism and her queerness that she decided to put into this series. You know, we've got to blame Kathleen Kennedy. She deserves a lot of the blame. But you know who else deserves a lot of the blame? Dave Filoni. Marcus replied to Nerd Cookie's tweet, and he says, Dave Filoni, as the chief creative officer, could have put a stop to what we watched tonight and chose not to. Absolutely. This is the perfect picture to represent the people that are leading Disney Star Wars right now into oblivion. And you know who's overseeing all of the projects? Dave Filoni. You know what's really funny is that we also had this. I know that there's been other channels out there that have covered this. And when I wanted to cover it, obviously, like I said, I had to do that other video. But here we go. Here's a Leslie Headland quote to tell you how much involvement Dave Filoni actually had. And if you go back to even the sequels, he was all down with everything that they did. You had him do that speech at the women's conference. You've had him commenting and talking about this stuff just like everybody else. The only difference between Dave Filoni and everybody else at Lucasfilm is that you actually never really hear Dave Filoni come out and point the finger at the fans. But he is all on board in regards to the destruction of actual lore and actual Star Wars. Anyway, here we go. Leslie Headland says Dave Filoni was a mentor in making The Acolyte. He guided her to include witches that weren't Night Sisters. And here we go, the quote. Dave Filoni very quickly became a mentor of mine in terms of navigating what this part of the timeline would be like for both the Jedi and the other Force users. And then other Force users. He told me, not all witches are Night Sisters, but we don't even have to take it from Leslie Headland herself. We can go back to Star Wars Celebration last year when he just so happened to say this.
You guys, have you met Leslie Headland? And she's a massive fan and I've talked to, and I enjoyed talking with her, and her teaser was phenomenal. I mean, how can you not be excited about Acolyte?
So amazing.
And Tony Gilroy did a version of the Empire that's like it's like the most THX awesome evil thing I've ever seen. And so I love all that, and that's inspiring. We inspire each other. It's a big collective effort at Lucasfilm.
They inspire each other to make absolute abominations of Star Wars, and they inspire each other to put their queerness and make it the gayest Star Wars we've ever seen. It's absolutely a joke and I find it funny that it took people this long to recognize that Dave Filoni is an absolute hack. He's not faithful to George Lucas or George Lucas Star Wars. And he's disloyal to George and the fans. Disloyal to Star Wars. And he is the one that's out there right now, sitting there, overseeing all of these projects, like The Acolyte, and putting his quote-unquote stamp of approval on it. There were a lot of people that praised the Ahsoka show. There are a lot of people that praise the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and people want to say that he wasn't involved in that. But you've heard Deborah Chow talk about Dave Filoni and how he helped her with the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. An absolute abomination when it comes to lore and canon and continuity, of course. The circle was complete. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. Those lines in Star Wars that we know, in real Star Wars, completely get destroyed. But then not only that, there was also this from Dave Filoni. If you've never seen this interview, this was on the Star Wars channel. This was, 7 years ago? 7 years ago. Let's have a listen to what he actually says here.
And I've always leaned towards if we're going to create something, we should check and see if it existed already to the fans, because it has way more value if we bring that in. And it's like, why would I just replace it with something new? So if we're going to do an admiral, if we're going to do a big military leader, I could create a new guy, sure. But what about Thrawn?
What about the jangling keys? Let's just put them on the screen, because what the hell did he do to Thrawn? But listen to what he actually says next.
It's great. Thrawn is a character we all know. Thrawn has a lot of credibility. So then you ask yourself, is it right to use him?
Interesting
and can we
question.
use him in a way that's similar to the books? Or are we using him and it's going to go completely into left field? And there have been times when we wanted to use things from the EU, and I was like, yeah, but we can't use it that way. So why? I don't want to use it and change it. I don't want to use it and make it something completely different. That's rude.
Oh, that's rude, is it? To pull from the EU and change it and make it something that it's not. Basically what they continue to do every time they do a new show. They seem to pull something from the EU and completely change it and twist it and make it something that it's not. So that must mean that Dave Filoni is one rude piece of shit. Dave Filoni is an absolute hack. I've been saying it for a long time now. I must admit, Ryan Kennel from RKO Outpost has said it for a lot longer than I have. I, at least for a small amount of time there, had a little bit of faith that Dave Filoni was the right person and could have done some good Star Wars. Maybe back then there's a possibility that he could have, but even some of the things that he did in the Clone Wars really starts to, prick up the ears. You start to ask a few questions. But then you look at The Mandalorian, just hollow nothingness, right? With a few jangling keys on the screen. You look at the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, his involvement in that. You look at the Book of Boba Fett, his involvement in that. You look at what he's done with the Bad Batch and some of the animated stuff that he's done, Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire, and the destruction and even the retcons that he did to his own canon. The books that they've released and the retcons that Tales of the Jedi did with the Ahsoka book. You know, this guy doesn't care about Star Wars. He doesn't care about the fans. But again, the only difference between him and everybody else over there at Lucasfilm is that he doesn't point the finger and actually blame the fans, which he shouldn't, because he should be pointing the finger back at himself and blaming himself for the destruction of actual Star Wars. Anyway, I just wanted to get my thoughts out there on this because, again, I've been saying it for a long time that Dave Filoni is an absolute hack and completely disloyal to George, the fans, and Star Wars. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow for Acolyte Episode 4. Later, guys.